Hey, welcome back to the channel, guys. Today I'm getting ready to pull the transmission back out of the Ranger here. I got a couple issues with it that I want to take care of. Shouldn't take too terribly long to do it, but we'll get into it here shortly. One, I got an issue with the front main or front input shaft seal leaking. And two, I think the torque converter might be bad on it, so I want to replace the torque converter and then also take care of that front seal. But as you can see, I got some of it apart already. This part of the cross member underneath. I got that out. I got the fluid drained. I also have the exhaust pulled out. The drive shaft is pulled off already. Kind of getting ready to pull the transmission down. I got to get some of the more linkage tore apart and tranny cooler lines, stuff like that, disconnected, and then I can take the bolts and the torque converter bolts loose, and then I can get it out. One thing though, on top of those two things I want to take care of, when I was draining the fluid, I noticed that I think the vent is plugged for the transmission, because as soon as I started to drain the fluid, you could tell it was glugging out. It wasn't getting air from the top side, letting it come out the bottom side. So I'm pretty sure that vent is plugged. We'll take a look at that, see what's going on there. But we'll get some of the rest of this stuff apart, and we'll get the transmission down, and I'll kind of show you that. All right, got the transmission all out now. Here's the vent that I was talking about. You know, this moves freely here, but I'm guessing there's dirt or something plugged up inside here. So it's got to be a pressed-in fitting, because there's not really any place to get a wrench on here to spin this off. So I'll probably have to see if I can get this cap pried off here somehow. Try and see if there's dirt in there, or dig that out, blow it out, something. I don't necessarily want to blow dirt into the transmission, but if I can somehow clean it out, maybe vacuum it out, try and get it up out of there. And that little bit too, I guess, if it does go in there, it shouldn't be the end of the world, but if we can get it to come out instead of go in, we should be okay. But everything's out right now. I got the torque converter pulled out, sitting on the bench. It's over here. And I got to pick one of them up here, so run to the transmission store, transmission dealer in town here. I know they've got these in stock, so I just want to put a stock converter back in here. I don't want to stall or anything like that. But one issue I'm kind of running into is, I wonder if it isn't because my torque converter, the issues I'm having, is maybe because the torque converter is up tight against kind of the pump inside there. Usually when you push it all the way in and then you bolt it up to the flywheel, you should be able to pull it back, you know, an 1/8 of an inch or 3/16 of an inch, whatever. There's a little bit of a gap there. Mine is pretty much dead on tight up against the flywheel. I mean, it's not where I'm sucking the transmission and bending the flex plate or anything like that. When I bolt up the transmission, it's like perfectly just flush with it. So you can kind of see it's, the torque converter's been up against the pump on the inside there. And I wonder if that's not letting fluid go by or anything. I gotta talk to the transmission shop about that. But this is the seal I want to replace too. I should be able to get that no problem, and I shouldn't have to take this apart necessarily to get that out. I should be able to pry it out and pound a new one in here. But I'm pretty sure this is leaking because of that vent on top there. So I'm going to see if I can get the top of that vent off there and look inside there and see what we got. All right, got the cap off this little vent here just to check it out, and it appears that the vent is working just fine. If you look, I don't know if you can see that, but there's a little rubber piece right in here. It's like a little rubber duckbill kind of thing. So basically it lets gases or vent out, but it won't let stuff go back in. So I'm pretty sure that's working fine. I kind of want to pull that little rubber piece out of there, but I'm just going to leave it for now. So anytime I drain the fluid, I'm going to just have to take the plug out on the other side and then just let it vent out or drain out here where I usually drain it. But if you've ever seen these before, it's very similar to like on air cleaners. They also have them on like AC evaporators. It'll be kind of a little duckbill on the bottom of like an air cleaner, or on the bottom of the cab where water will drain out. So it lets water drain out, but it doesn't let stuff go back in it. So this is just reversed, so it's pointing up. So lets gas out, but it just won't let stuff back in there. So it was a little bit of a pain getting that cap off there, but I'll put that cap back on and kind of crimp it on there, and it should be fine, and we'll leave it. So, well, this escalated quickly. You guys, I was telling you I was just going to replace this torque converter and the input shaft seal. But when I brought the torque converter into the transmission shop, kind of to match it up so he had the right one, see if he could, match it up with a new one, he noticed that how pink the transmission fluid was. And I guess I didn't think much of it at the time when I drained it. But yeah, once he mentioned that, I'm like, okay, yeah, then we must be having some sort of moisture problem or getting water into the oil somehow. But the oil is pretty pink. Because once you get water in the transmission oil or in the transmission itself, that's not good for a lot of the things, the clutch packs, the solenoids inside there. He recommended rebuilding the whole transmission. So I took his, I guess, word for it. And then also this way it's fully rebuilt and ready to go, because this transmission was used, had about 60,000 miles or so on it, 70,000 miles when I bought it out of the junkyard. So it seemed to run good, but it felt like there was a little bit of slipping going on there, so that's why I was assuming it was a torque converter. Well, yeah, it turns out we just ended up rebuilding the whole thing. Now, he maybe suspects that the water could have been coming from the radiator cooler, because I have this transmission, the cooler lines come out, run to the radiator first, and then they run through the external air cooler, and then they come back. So actually there's two coolers on there. They're just in line. Now I never was losing any antifreeze, so I don't think it was the radiator leaking into the transmission cooler part of it. It's a new radiator, not to say that can't be bad, but I think that the actual torque converter that was originally with this transmission might have been sitting outside in the junkyard and had moisture or water, rain, whatever in it, and I didn't realize it when I put it together and threw it all together, and then with that it just put water into the whole system. So that might have been my fault, because once he mentioned it, I do remember seeing kind of pinkish oil in the torque converter when I put this all together originally. So I think that was probably my fault. If I would have just put a new torque converter on it right away, I wouldn't be going through this issue right now. I had him save some of the old clutch packs and parts out of the transmission when he rebuilt it. The friction discs don't look bad. They look pretty good, but I saved them just in case, for whatever reason. But so we ended up having to rebuild the whole damn thing. New torque converter. So hopefully that's good to go. I do have to put my sensor back on here for the gear shift back on. I do have to put my lines bracket here on for the cooler lines. Then I should be able to get it shoved back in the truck. But hopefully that takes care of a lot of the issues. I do want to take this on power tour this year, so this way at least I know the transmission is good. For the most part, anything else that's wrong with the truck would probably be something in the engine, but that seems to be running okay right now. But we'll get this back in and get it buttoned up. I am going to have the exhaust pulled out. If you saw my exhaust video, just having troubles trying to figure out how to quiet the thing down. I think what I'm going to end up doing is making an H pipe out of here instead of an X. I'll save this one. So what I want to do is just be able to swap it in and out, being I have the V-bands on each end. I think I have enough pipe left over where I just got to make it straight and then run the H pipe. I'm also probably going to put some catalytic converters in here if they fit, see if that quiets it down some more too. But for now we'll get all this, the transmission and everything in there, and then the last thing before firing it up would be to get that exhaust done. But we'll get her in here. So because now that I had water in the oil, I'm going to have to flush everything out or try and get as much of that moisture out of the system. And anytime you have debris or anything, moisture too, that's in the transmission, that gets spread out through the cooler. So I have to clean out the radiator, and I also have to clean out, I have a cooler up front here. The way I have it run is from the transmission, the line comes up into here, on top here, goes through the cooler here, and then from there comes out the bottom, runs to the cooler in the front, goes through the cooler there, and then back to the transmission. The reason I have it hooked up that way is because just in case colder temperatures, you want a little heat, I suppose, to help build up in the transmission. So it comes to the radiator. It still would have to go through that external cooler out here, you know, and then back, but just to get a little heat in the transmission, that's kind of how I have it set up. It's very possible that this cooler in the radiator here was leaking, and maybe that's how I got moisture into the transmission. I don't think that's what happened, because I usually put on the coolant tank here, I put it right at this line here, and I'm not losing coolant. Never really have on this truck. I had a couple small leaks on this radiator hose here, but otherwise it's always been right at this line, you know, when it's all cool and everything. So I don't think I'm losing coolant. It doesn't appear that way anyway, that's mixing. So I don't think that's the case. You know, it's a brand new radiator. Not to say that a brand new radiator can't be bad, but what I plan on doing is I'm going to just disconnect this cooler for a little while, not run that one. I'm just going to run the external cooler in the front. I should have enough length here, I think it's this line here, to run it just directly to it, and then just disconnect this little jumper I have in between the two of them. So I should have enough length here where I'm not going to have to redo lines or anything, and just hook that one up. And then I also want to kind of test this one at the same time. So kind of drain this one out, clean it out, and then I'm going to hook both of these lines up, or make little lines off of here, and I'm just going to run them into an empty container. So as I drive, you know, just drive around for next summer or whatever, I should be able to see if there's anything coming out of there. If I start getting fluid out of there, or antifreeze I should say, then I know that that's probably where it came from. But I'm pretty sure my whole moisture problem came from that torque converter. After talking with my transmission guy, and he kind of noticed that there was fluid in, or moisture in the fluid and everything. It kind of reminded me that before I put that torque converter on, when I first bought that used, that it was kind of pink inside there. I didn't think of anything of it because I'm not used to using the LV stuff from Motorcraft, the ATF. So I guess I never really paid a whole lot of attention to what color it was. So I'm pretty sure there was moisture in there before I put it on this thing, and it just got mixed in and everything else. I mean, I can show you right here. This is the container. You can see on top it's darker than the bottom, so this would still have the moisture in there, and this is starting to separate out. That's supposed to be pretty dark. I don't know if I think I have. Let me see if I can. I do have a little bit of the Mercon LV here, so that's what I put in the truck. Let me grab this and just dump a little in there. So that's the color it should look. I'll take the cover off this container here. But you can kind of see what color that should be, and this is more pink. You know, this is separating, but if we're at the bottom, it's way more pink. So there's definitely moisture in here, and like I said, I'm pretty sure that it all came from that torque converter. So yeah, just one of them things where I guess it was probably my screw up. Should have put a new converter on it right from the get-go. But there's not really a way to drain those things unless I have a drain plug on them, or to kind of get that flushed out. I guess if I would have known that was in there to begin with, I might have flushed it all out immediately, or tried to, but it still could get in there. So lesson learned, I guess, and we just kind of move on. But we'll get the transmission thrown in here and get everything cleaned out and flushed out, and hopefully we're back in business, and hopefully that kind of took care of our transmission issues. So okay, so I got the transmission all mounted in there, trying to put fluid in it, but before I can top it off, I want to finish doing the exhaust. And this is the X pipe out of there. I decided I'm going to end up building an H pipe out of it. I do have leftover pipe, so I'm going to build an H pipe out of it, see what happens. I'm actually going to put catalytic converters on it too. So here's some of the pipe I have, and then the 2 catalytic converters. So it shouldn't take me too long to get that welded up. And just basically I want to make it the same exact length as the X pipe. So if I want to swap them in and out, I can do that, and then they'll match up with the exhaust, the mufflers, and they should work. So, all right, got the H pipe all mocked up here. I got to fully weld it yet, or finish welding it yet. I got kind of the blocks on each end and tied together so it doesn't warp when I do the center one here, because it's going to want to pull it together on each end. So hopefully that doesn't move, and we'll do that tube first, which this tube was kind of a pain in the ass. Not having a notcher to fish mouth that's crossover there, that was tricky. I basically just had to take my time, take a little bit away at a time, and then hopefully not make it too short and then have to restart it all over again. So, but we got it done. Should work okay. Got the holes cut out on the inside here of the pipe here. And like I said, we'll start with this pipe first, and then we'll go on to the catalytic converters and then do the flanges on the end there. So, and then we'll be able to put it inside or in the truck and run it and finish putting tranny fluid in it and wrap this whole project up and hopefully be able to test it. All right, transmission's all in. Got the exhaust all buttoned up. Now we're going to try and fire this thing up and see if we got any leaks on it. Also pretty excited to see if what that exhaust sounds like now with the catalytic converters in it. Alright, give this transmission a little road test. See how these mufflers sound on the road actually. Roll that up a little bit. Alright, here we go. To be honest, it's probably not shifting that much different than what it was before. After the whole rebuild is done, it doesn't seem to be shifting too much differently. But it's good to get that water out of there. Alright, so now that I've been driving it for a little bit, those DBX series mufflers that I had on last, I think they're the ones I'll stick with for a while. I like the sound, they're quiet like I wanted them to be. I think the catalytic converters helped, and I think they just sound good for right now. And like I said in that one video, just sick of swapping exhaust out. So for now we'll run those and I think we'll be alright. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this episode. The road test seems to be working good. Tranny's working good. I think this thing is ready to go on some road trips this summer. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time, guys.